Apple CEO Tim Cook has defended his company's decision to comply with a Chinese government demand to remove anti-censorship tools from its App Store. Amazon has also asked its Chinese customers to stop using VPNs to circumvent the country's internet blocks. It's drawn widespread criticism from netizens around the globe who say it signals growing cooperation with China's vast censorship regime. Fergus Ryan is a China cyber analyst for the Australian Strategic Policy Institute. We spoke about Beijing's renewed push to enforce its strict internet controls.
There have been some rules around VPNs for some time now, for the past couple of years, but as is often the case in China, those rules and regulations have been somewhat vague. But earlier this year, China enacted some strict new laws around online media, amongst other laws that they brought through. And so now we're starting to see a clear sign from Beijing authorities that they want to strictly enact those rules and enforce them. In particular, with a big political event coming up, the 19th Party Congress, which is happening in the autumn of this year, so very soon. It's very important, it's of the utmost importance for the Chinese Communist Party to maintain control of the narrative heading into that event.
I guess what surprised quite a few people is that Apple has acquiesced so quickly, taking down a number of VPN apps in their stores. Amazon looks set to follow. Is this just the cost of doing business, sort of sacrificing freedom of speech and freedom of access?
Unfortunately, that seems to be the case, and the companies like Apple are in a tight position. China is Apple's second largest market, but not only that, China is also home to almost all of Apple's supply chain. So Beijing has an enormous amount of leverage over the company. It may be the richest company in the world, but the Chinese Communist Party still has it in a very tight spot. Similarly, Amazon, though it doesn't have by any measure the same amount of business in China, it still has designs on the Chinese market, and recently announced that it wanted to launch a version of its Kindle device in partnership with a Chinese telecommunications company. So companies like Apple and like Amazon just do not want to upset the apple cart when it comes to these issues, unfortunately.
And Fergus, of course, there's so many businesses now and companies that have a foot in both camps. They've got businesses in China that they also do business with Western nations, and they have to move between those two technology sort of platforms. How is that going to complicate things for companies?
Well, I mean, your viewers only need to think of how they've used the internet today to get things done. Google, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, all of these are blocked in China. But for a while, businesses and individuals have been able to access them through VPNs. Now, as there's a sort of a clampdown on this and that becomes harder for them to do business, it just makes it very difficult for businesses to do very basic logistics with companies that they're doing business with globally. It throws up barriers for these businesses. And it's not just businesses, it's researchers. So researchers at elite universities like Tsinghua or Peking University in Beijing, they need to access Google constantly to do research. So if China really wants to continue to innovate and develop its economy, this is really throwing a spanner into the works of that.
Is there going to be a way around it, as there so often is technologically?
It is. It has always been a sort of a cat and mouse game, or a sort of war of attrition with the Chinese Communist Party trying to control the internet, and individuals and companies like these VPN companies trying to offer ways, encrypted tunnels that sort of burrow underneath the Great Firewall of China. So while taking away these VPN apps will be hugely inconvenient to a lot of people. It's still not the end of the world. If people are motivated enough and have a modicum of technical proficiency, then they'll be able to manually put the information into their iPhone device to access these services. But of course, many more people, I imagine, will just throw their hands up in the air and just think that it's too difficult for them to do it. Yeah.
Fergus Ryan, great to have you on. Thank you so much.
Thank you.